We're recording now. Awesome. Okay, so I am pulling up our video right now. Yesterday was an amazing video. Thank you so much again, Amanda, for sending that into our lives, because it was really cool, and it's really kind of brought a lot of other ideas that I think we can talk about, like the ego. She talked a lot about ego, and I have another video that I want to listen to about ego. And I think maybe we can kind of put it all together and see how we can get over our egos, right? Or how we can use our egos for benefit rather than against us, you know? Because our egos can really work against us in a lot of ways. Can also be really great for us as well, because it's kind of where our confidence lies, you know, but how we use that confidence is what's going to be really important for us, okay? So let's delve into ego. This one is called The Other Side of Ego. Jonathan Grabner. Okay, let me screen share for you guys. Oh, it's probably going to be a commercial first.
Right now, a lot of us need insurance that's simple and affordable. That's why we created.
Okay. Let's listen to this and see what the other side of ego has for us, and then we'll talk about it. Oh. We'll let it load just a little bit.
I don't care if you live or die. I really don't. It's a hell of a thing hearing it from someone you barely know. But imagine hearing that from someone you love. On February the 24th, 2012, I was diagnosed with late-stage throat cancer. That night, I went home and sat at a table with my daughter and my wife, trying to swallow the fear while telling them about the procedures ahead. And that's when my daughter pushed her chair away from the table and said, "I don't care if you live or die." Yeah, there was a lot of anger, a lot of yelling through closed doors. And that night, as I tried to sleep, it kept me awake, and I kept thinking, why can't she see what I have given her, what I have done for her? You see, I was a broadcast journalist. At one time, I was a television news anchor with a big show. I became a network reporter. I became a foreign correspondent. We traveled around the world. We went from the cold prairie provinces to the warmth of Sydney, Australia, so I could cover Southeast Asia and the South Pacific. And I couldn't understand how she couldn't see what I gave her. But as I lay there, in the arrogance of my beliefs, I began to see the truth. And the truth was, I couldn't remember the last time I had hugged her and made her feel safe, the last time I had told her how proud I was of her, or the last time I had said, "I love you." And suddenly I realized that the cancer was a lot deeper than my throat. A few weeks later, I was in hospital to undergo what doctors call a radical neck dissection. They took a scalpel and cut me from the back of the right ear all the way down to below my Adam's apple, 12 inches long. They had to take out a golf ball-sized tumor. And as I lay in recovery, praying to a God that I did not believe in, please be gone, the surgeon came in and told me that it wasn't, and that I had to undergo a lot of weeks of chemotherapy and radiation. So, in this time that I knew I needed to be close to people because I was more scared than ever, I decided to go to chemotherapy and radiation alone and deny my daughter and my wife the chance to hear me say, "I am so scared, please come with me." I was dying to be close, but pushing them away and dying anyways. I'd go to radiation each day, and I couldn't come home just to face the four walls closing in around me, so I started to go to downtown areas so I could get lost in the sea of humanity and hope that that distraction would take me away from the rampant thoughts inside of my head that my demise was just around the corner. It is said, when you are ready to learn, that the teacher will appear, but I did not know that that teacher was going to be a homeless bum. I remember the first day I saw him, there he was, scruffy, sitting on a piece of cardboard on a busy intersection corner with his little dog sitting by him and a big sign that said, "Help." And when I first saw him, the first thing I thought was, how dare you? You should be out with a job. How dare you? You're not more of a victim than me. Look at me, I've got cancer, I could die. I've been with little kids in chemo. They're victims, not you. Over the next few days, I observed him as I would walk back and forth trying to get lost. And I never saw him reach out and actually overtly beg to anyone or be overly aggressive. He just seemed kind, offering hellos and greetings to people. One day I'm walking back down the road and I'm heading for home, and I knew I was on the same side of the road as him, and normally I would cross to the other side so I didn't have to confront him, or I guess maybe confront my prejudice. But today I said, no, forget it, I'm going to go right by him. And as I started to walk by him, that little dog stood up, came and stood in front of me, and then sat down and looked at me with a friendly face. I reached down and I patted it, and I turned to him without thinking. I opened up and was friendly, and I said, "What's his name?" He laughed at me and said, "Well, he's a she and her name's Molly. And she doesn't normally stop people unless they need something. What do you need?" Yeah, I wish I was that kind of my thoughts as you are right now. It's the first thing I thought, nice scam. Yeah, pull on the heartstrings, make me feel. Instead, I said to him, she must have known I needed a friendly dog to pet today. And I walked away. And I was confused. I was confused about a lot of stuff. The next day after radiation, I knew I wanted to go back and either make amends or do something or figure something out. And I wanted to give him something, but I wasn't about to give him money, because we all know what it's like when you give a beggar money. They're going to spend it on drugs or alcohol. I stopped and picked up a sandwich and a coffee, some little biscuits for Molly. And as I got close, he waved me over and he said, "Come back to see Molly, I see." And I was about to hand him the food and stuff, but he stuck out his hand to shake mine. And as he did, he started a conversation with me as if we had been mates for a long time. I sat with him and offered up the sandwich, and he said, "I'm not going to have this unless we share." The Spanish poet Saavedra once wrote, "There are no sorrows when we break bread." And there weren't any sorrows that day. We sat and talked like two old buddies, and for a moment I forgot that I was sick. After a bit, he reached into his bag and pulled out a little pill bottle, and his hands were shaky and couldn't open them, so I offered to, and he handed it to me, and I looked, and there was his name, Douglas. And Largentsil was a medication which is used by people with schizophrenia, which I thought meant he must be a psychotic serial killer. What it is, it's an internal jail. People get very little government help. We ignore them. We stigmatize them. And so I turned to him and said, "Is this why you're begging?" And he looked at me and he said, "What?" He said, "No, I'm here raising money to help the needy." And he pointed at a sign, and there below the big help, I hadn't even looked, were the groups that he was raising money for. And suddenly I realized it was not him that was disabled, it was me. For the judgment that I have had with him blinded me to the truth of this man's gracious intent. I saw him often after that. Remember one day I was going up the street and he had this cheeky little smile on his face, and he waved me over. He reached into his bag and he pulled out a little box of chocolates that I would have ignored as some cheap treat, but I knew from him that this was a lot of money. So I reached around the box and shook his hand and said, "Thank you, my friend." And he started to tear up. And I said, "Doug, what's wrong?" And he said, "I don't really have friends, and I sure don't have important friends like you. I lived my life trying to be important with TV cameras, recognition. And I never felt more important in my life than I did right at that second. because I was important just simply because I was giving him my presence. He said to me that, or I said to him that I wouldn't take the chocolates unless we shared like we always do. So we sat, and he opened them with great joy. And as we sat, I looked at that sea of people move by us, people with places to go and people to see and things to do, and people that I used to think I was like, people that were looking down upon us like we were less than them. I wanted to be those people for so long in my life, to have that view from above, but now sitting down below eating the best chocolates I'd ever had in my life, I realized the best view is right here. Sydney, Australia does get a little cool in the winter, and it was a winter day as I was walking through town, and I had a jacket on, and as I came upon Doug, he put a milk crate upside down, and I sat on it. Molly came up and put her paws on my knee, so I picked her up and pulled her into me and opened my jacket, and for the first time exposed this long scar which was on my neck. And Doug said, "What's that?" And I started to explain about the cancer. He said, "I know you're going to be okay." And I said, "Yeah, well, I kind of feel I am. I'm going through radiation and treatment." And he grabbed my arm. And I turned to him. And he said, "No, you're going to be okay. You have a lot more to do." I have never in my life been stumped for words, but I was that day. So I did what we men do when we are emotional and scared we're going to cry in public. I sniffled, turned my head, and tried to swallow the tears. He was kind. He did the same. And we sat there sniffling back and forth. But I think sometimes the best things are said when we don't exchange words. We just exchange space. Eventually I had to get up and leave, and I didn't want to say goodbye, so I said, "I'll see you later," and he just waved and smiled. Molly got up and barked for the first time. I walked down that street that day, and my eyes were pouring out tears. Not because I was fearful or angry, it's because I was happy, because for the first time in my life, or the first time since cancer, I knew I was going to live. And in the first time in my life, I felt I had a real purpose. The next day I had chemotherapy, and well, chemotherapy has a way of wiping all positivity out of you. You're slowly fed vile poison that drips into your body. To make things worse that day, there was a little girl sitting across from me with a nurse by her. She was combing the hair on the mane of a toy horse. She had a scarf on to cover her bald head. Her skin was gray, and she had a look of defeat. God, I didn't want to look at her. Didn't want to look away either. Then suddenly, madness as I closed my eyes, and I remembered back to when I was just a young boy that age, and my best friend Rob Austin, who was a class clown, used to make faces. So I turned to her and I went, that's more of a reaction than I got from her. You know what little kids can look like, and they're not quite sure and think there's something really strange about you? Well, that's the look she gave me. The logical thing would have been to turn away and pretend it didn't happen, but that would take somebody who's smart, and nowhere in this talk have I said I'm smart. So I did it again. This time I saw her stomach start to roll a bit, then it came up through her chest, and I was wondering, was she going to be ill and vomit? But she started to laugh. And the laughter of a young child is contagious, and I broke out in laughter. The nurse started to laugh. Nurses started to come in from all the other rooms, and they started to laugh. And I knew I had to see Doug. I had to tell him, "You're right, I do have a lot more to do." The next day I went back downtown. And there he was, gone. He wasn't there. I didn't think much. I was hoping just an anomaly. So I went back day after day. I went back for weeks, and he wasn't there. I started asking storekeepers, had they seen him, and most would say, "We know what bums are like. They just move to better spots." I'd phone agencies, and they said they couldn't say anything because of privacy laws. And at night, the time I had reserved to think in my own head the fears about my own demise, I started thinking about him and wondering, had he been mugged? Had he been hospitalized? Had he been institutionalized? And I started thinking about Molly, and she'd been put in a shelter. And was she about to be put down? I wanted to tell you about Doug and give you whole sorts of great metaphors on what it really meant to me, and I was going to be part of a big transition in my life, and I wanted to tell you how great that he had made me, and then I realized that day I hadn't been prepared to tell Doug the whole story. You see, in chemo that day, we had to turn our chairs away from each other because every time we looked at each other, we were laughing. The chemo goes on and you don't laugh. It kills you. And chemo made me emotional, and I got teared up and I felt lousy, but I knew that I couldn't leave that day because I knew I was leaving before her, before I said something to her that was going to be so important that it would rescue her. So as I finished the chemo that day, I walked over and I squatted down in front of her and I got her eye to eye, and I must have looked like hell. And I was shaking and I could feel sweat coming out of my head, and I knew I was trying to come up with great words. And as I did, she looked at me and she tilted her head with an empathetic look that you would recognize from a parent, not a little child. And then she reached out with a free arm and placed her hand against my cheek to comfort me. I was a child suddenly, and I started to cry. And so she wiped the tears away from my face. It was the hardest thing walking out of there that day. And as I look back, she was just there combing the pony again. A couple of weeks later, I was in chemo and I saw her nurse, so I mouthed, "Have you seen her? How is she?" The nurse came and told me that she had passed away. God took the wrong one that day. That and Doug sat in my heart a long time. I started to realize that I wasn't so scared of dying. I had just been scared my whole life of living. I started to realize that we can all die in just 1 minute, but we can all live a million amazing moments, filled with passion, filled with pain, filled with love, angst, anger, anything we want. And that I had lived half a century avoiding any negative emotion and trying to insulate myself against the poor, the needy, the desperate. I tried to surround myself with rich, famous, powerful people, thinking if I got to be with them, then I could live in this sort of benign happiness. And if I felt any guilt about the homeless, that I could wait until I made more than I needed to give them some of what I had. But here in my most desperate moment, two people I had spent a lifetime avoiding, a homeless man and a little kid, who I thought had so little to give, gave me so much. I had a lot more to do, but that lot more to do wasn't me saving other people. That lot more to do was me seeing other people, me receiving, and in that giving them the power to heal others. It also started me on a course of redemption in my life with my daughter. When I was asked to do this talk, I was honored and humbled, and I was scared that I wasn't worthy. Normally in the past I'd have told a million people, boasted about it, but I didn't tell anyone for weeks, except I called my wife Marina. She cried on the phone with me. And then I called my little girl. She now lives halfway across the country, down under. She's going to school. She's going to be an early childhood education teacher. And damn it, she's going to be the best one because she's really good. She's got a heart so big. And I told her, same little girl that told me she didn't care if I lived or died, and she said to me, "Daddy, I am so proud of you. You're going to be really good. And Daddy, I love you." Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't ready to cry that much. I think that was hard emotion. I was not ready for it to be that emotional. Okay, wait, let me stop screen sharing and then I'm gonna run and get a friggin' tissue because somebody said, "Oh, is it freezing?" You can still hear. Could you guys still hear it okay? Yeah, it was just like, the video was just freezing. I was freezing. Sorry, I'm guessing. Okay.
You've been freezing up, but the video never freezed.
Okay. All right. That's probably because we have like some clouds moving in for a storm, like just a little small storm, but it's like one cloud moves in and my Wi-Fi is just like shot. Let me see if my hotspot will do better. Let's see. I'm glad you guys could still hear it though. That's the most important part. Woo. Definitely tell I started my period this morning. I'm always like so much more emotional when I do that. Like I'm like, that's better. Okay. Hopefully that will. Okay, so let's talk about so I would love to kind of combine what we learned yesterday and what we just kind of, so like yesterday was like the facts, today is like applying it to a life, right? So let's talk more about ego and how ego can get in our way, right? Of experiencing so much that we don't even know is out there. So his perspective, was that he was this buco guy with lots of money and lots of traveling, and he was doing all these good things, but little did he know he was missing so much that was just right in front of him, And I think that's just really interesting to be like, wow, this guy who we would probably envy, the amount of traveling or money or experiences he's had, was like dying on the inside. Not just like from the cancer, right? Like because of who he was, because he didn't have anybody, because he didn't have somebody to talk to, and how the little dog and the little homeless guy and the little girl can have such huge moments for him, but only when he let his ego down, right? When he stepped outside of what he knew or what he was and listened or gave the opportunity or just took the time, space, giving people your space, giving people your time is letting his ego down, right? And look what it created for him. So sometimes, you guys, our perspective can be wrong, right? Like, I mean, sometimes what we think is happening or what we think about something can be not even like on the board, right? When you actually take the time and the space to listen, to sit, to just kind of be there, how much he learned about himself. I think that's very interesting. How much you can learn about yourself through other people and other people that you would have never given your time to. Okay, so I loved that story. I just think it's really important, especially nowadays, right? Let's like tie it into what we're dealing with here and now in our society. Giving people your time to listen, to understand where they're coming from, to let your own ego down, your own perceptions down for a second, to just really step into somebody else's shoes and see where they're at and meet them on their level and try to really understand from their perspective, not from your idea of their perspective, but truly giving them your time and space to listen and say, I hear you, I'm here with you, I believe in you. You got more time, right? Like, I just think that was such a cool kind of connection for just, I think a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with now out in our own world and universe and communities, where we have a large voice speaking up, saying we're not being listened to, right? And so maybe for a second, if we just stopped with our own ego and our own perspective and just said, you know what? I'm just going to sit and listen. I'm just going to sit and listen. I'm going to try to understand, even though I have no idea what I could possibly learn. I have no idea what you could possibly be going through, but I'm going to sit and listen. Because maybe I can get a sense of where you're at. And also, I might just learn some stuff about myself too. Because when you see other people's perspective, not what you think their perspective is, like you actually take the time to listen to their perspective, you might actually learn something completely out of the ordinary that you never, ever, ever thought would come from that situation. Just like this guy did. He never thought that walking by a homeless man was going to bring him this profound, eye-opening experience. But he let his ego down for a second, right? I'm going to let my ego down and I'm going to walk by them. Let's see what happens. Nothing, maybe nothing would have happened. Maybe he just would have walked right past him and never spoke to him. But he knew that there was a clue there. I think life kind of guides us in a way if we just are willing to stop and listen for a second and say, you know what, I'm just going to see what this does have in store for me because it's been brought in front of me for a reason, probably. Right? Like there was probably somewhere in life that brought him to that street, to that person at that time. Right? Like, what are the odds? The odds are that's exactly where he was supposed to be. And he listened. He let his ego down. He let his own brain stop for just a second and said, you know what? I'm just going to take myself out of my own head, out of my own problems, out of my own situation, and I'm just going to listen to this guy. And I'm just going to talk to him. Little did he know that this guy wasn't even searching for his money, right? Wasn't even doing that. But had he never taken the time to even listen, he would have always had that perspective. Always. He would have lived life always thinking that there was some homeless guy with a dog wanting his money. Right? But little did he know, in that moment, he learned that's not what he wanted. Right? Maybe he just wanted a friend, just wanted somebody to sit with, somebody to share some chocolates with. Okay? So I think sometimes too, like, yeah, Amanda just texted me and said that it was kind of like an angel. I really kind of believe that too. Like, what are the odds of him just like being gone? Like, that is so interesting to me. Like to me, it's like definitely like an angel or like a God placement of like, wow, what are the odds of that person being there? And then for him to just be gone after his purpose was set and fulfilled. How cool is that? And so you guys, when we go back to what we learned yesterday, right? So our perception and our persona of who we think we are. So, okay, let's back it up. Let's use his example in the 4 lists that we got. So his perception was that this was a homeless guy. He wanted my money. He doesn't want to work. He just wants to sit on the side and get money for drugs, booze, alcohol, whatever, right? The persona of the guy speaking was that I'm too good to sit here. I'm too, what would people think of me, you know? Kind of that's like persona and ego. It's like, what would people think of me because of who I am? You know, what would people think if I'm sitting next to a homeless person? What if somebody walked by that knew me? So he almost didn't do it because of what other people were going to think, right? Because of who he already was. But if he let his ego down, he can be himself. He can be himself with this guy. Okay? And that is what's so much more important than holding an ego and holding a perception and a persona for other people. Okay? So sometimes we feel like we have to hold these images, or we have to hold these high stakes that maybe once were right for us, right? Like maybe at one point those those requirements that we required from ourselves or this persona felt right. But there might also be a point in your life where you have to double check that and say, is my perception right? Is my ego checked? Right? Am I being true to myself? Right? Okay, so like, are my true self and my ego and my persona and my perception all aligning? Or am I finding inconsistency somewhere? Do people think I'm one person and I'm really another person? There's a reason why I told you guys that Mike and I got in an argument. I want you guys to know, because maybe you have a perception that Mike and I are some amazing, perfect couple. I want you to know we're not. We fight just like everybody else. We argue. We have gone to bed mad at each other. Like, we are not perfect. So whatever your perception is, it has just now been changed. Because now you know we do fight just like other couples. If you thought maybe we didn't, your perception may have been altered in that moment. But now you see me for who I am. You see me as myself, right? I'm showing up as myself and being honest and just saying, this is me. Working on it, right? Like, we don't have to be perfect, but we have to be a work in progress. And so our perception and all of this self, actualization, your ego, it's a work in progress, you guys. It's not a final destination. You have not arrived. We're 30, probably, I would say our age range in here is probably like late 20s to maybe early 40. We have lots of years to go. We have lots of years to develop. And our world is going to continue changing. Our lives are going to continue changing. Our perception needs to continue to change. Our egos need to continue to change. And who we are as ourselves will continue to change. As we become a mom, or maybe you open a new business, or you finally got that degree so you can take that new job, yourself is going to constantly change. Okay, which means everything else connected to it has to change too. Your perception, your persona, okay? All of that has to change with you, because if not, you're going to start feeling a disconnect, right? So take me, for instance, the perception of people that knew me when I was 21, I was a drunk, crazy party girl, right? That was their perception of me. And there was a moment couple years ago when I really started slowing down on partying. I stopped going to parties. I really stopped going out to bars. I stopped going out drinking with friends. I mean, I still drank here and there, but I felt myself getting a different self. I knew that alcohol was not serving me any positive messages or any positivity into my body, right? So I had to, when I decided to actually get rid of it, that was a really hard perception for other people to take. Okay? Their perception of me was that I was a drug party girl. Why wouldn't I be out there taking shots of tequila anymore? Who are you? You're not who you used to be. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because I'm a work in progress. And I'm a totally different person right now. And I'm okay with that, but I'm going to have to change your perspective on it. I've changed myself. I've changed my ego on it, because it was an ego check, right? It's hard to be like, okay, I'm just no longer that party girl. You got to let that go. I had to let that go. Like, my ego had to let that go. Okay. And then I had to change people's perception of me, who once knew me as a party girl. Right? So I had to change that perception, and it was hard. And it checked my ego a lot of times, because then I'm like, oh, maybe I can just like not tell anybody. If I just don't tell anybody, then they just think I'm still drinking, and then we just don't even have to go through it. Their perception of me can just stay what it is. But that's when we create disconnect. When other people's perceptions of you are not in line with who you are of yourself. Okay, that's when ego starts to fight. Because you're like, okay, I'm this person, but other people think me as this person, so maybe I gotta put on this presentation for them. That's your persona. Okay? I had to change people's perception of who I was. You wanna know how I did that? Put in the work. I had to change the way I thought of myself, right? I had to change the way I was like, I'm no longer a drinker. I'm no longer a partier. I had to set that for myself. I had to prove that to myself way before other people saw it. And they still, to this day, and I've only been like sober for 6 months. So I'm going in like 6 months. So the last time we drank was actually our wedding. And then let's see. So we haven't drank since January, I think 4th was our last drink. And so it was just a decision Mike and I made. I don't know. It was kind of random, to be honest. It kind of started when we saw his mom at our wedding, and she was drunk by 10 a.m. That was a big step where we were just like, Mike just said, he goes, I can't. He goes, I don't want to be that. He goes, but that's my blood, and I know that's where I'm going if I don't stop. And me, I was like, heck, I'll give it up. I didn't even really care. Like, it was really like me giving up alcohol. Guys, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I was never like addicted to alcohol. I'm not an addict of alcohol, but Mike was. And I can't sit there having a glass of wine in front of somebody who is trying to get rid of their alcohol. So I said, all right, I'm in it with you. Let's give it up. Let's do it. Let's challenge. Challenge accepted, right? And here we are, June. We've actually been through the hardest year we've ever been through, and we stuck it out. We said, you know what? I don't care what people's perception of us is, because if you know Mike, which a lot of you guys don't, I think actually the only person on here that knows Mike before me would be Kristen. So you could ask Kristen who Mike was before he met me, because I'm sure she's got plenty of stories of who Mike was. His perception, it was really hard for him to let that down. It was because people knew him as a top partier, party guy, always going all out, big parties, you know, and his perception.
Mike was extravagant with parties. So Mike was the person that, you know, like me and Mike would rally together. It was a process, literally like our daily lives. Like I met Mike at Penn Station when I was 17 years old, and I dated his friend Gary. Like that's how long I've known Mike. I'm going to be 30 this year. So it's just literally we would like, okay, which one of our friends are actually responsible enough to have money? What do we need to do to throw this party? And so it's like literally a mind thoughtful process of like gathering money together, getting the most popular and the coolest people together. Who's going to have this? Who's going to have that? What are we going to party with? We went all in, and it was like, and that's what we were known for. People knew us, that it was like, okay, they're going to bring it up. There's going to be DJs. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. And we went all in every time. You didn't come disappointed, and more often than not, you would still sleep on the floor when you woke up.
Right? All right. So that puts into perspective of who Mike was when I met him. And I was a girl coming from Ohio University who, when I was going to Ohio University, we were the #2 party school in the United States. So I was coming off a hot streak as well, coming out of partying and you know, all of this stuff. And Mike came out of partying. And so we were known as a party couple when we got together. That's like literally what we did. We played volleyball, we partied, and that was the perception people also knew from us. So you can imagine how hard it was a few years later when we have our son, and then we move away. We're still trying to have this like semi-party lifestyle with a toddler, and it just wasn't the same. We were having a very big disconnect because we were still trying to live this lifestyle that we had once done, but it wasn't matching up with who we were. It wasn't matching up with who we were on the inside, because we wanted to be a family. We wanted to go on family vacations and, like, you know, go do fun family stuff, like go play putt-putt golf. And like, we really wanted that, but we struggled for several years because of the perception of other people that we were trying to live up to, right? We were trying to keep that perception for them. Like, oh, I wouldn't want them to think I'm different or I changed or whatever. But just like he kind of said in the beginning of that video, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't care if you used to know me as a party girl. That's okay, because I'm going to change your perception. And I want that to be with who I am. I want your perception to line up with who I am on the inside, so there isn't a disconnect between what you think of me and who I am. And I think, you know, in a world where we are in social media so much, it's so easy to create a perception of people, right? Oh man, they have it all. Look at their house, look at their dog, look at their 2.5 kids, blah, blah, blah. The perception is so skewed by what we think people are, okay? So that's why I actually take an active role in my social media. Because one of my favorite quotes that I made up, you guys, one of my favorite quotes: the world will fill your story with lies if you do not speak your truth. Okay? The world will fill in your life with whatever they want. Whatever they think, whatever they could create in their head, they will fill the gaps that you're not showing. Okay? So if you're showing, oh, a vacation, and then another picture of like you doing something really cool, in between, people are going, oh my God, I bet she's just always out on the water. She's just always out here doing this. When in reality, I took this little vacation and I went on water here, but I was home working, all in between, right? So people's perceptions are going to be skewed because they're going to think. So that's why I always like to post. Like, I may post a water picture where I'm out on the lake or out on the ocean or something, but then I also will always post, hey, I'm at home doing a workout. Or if you're in my stories, you know I'm home doing work. I'm running. I'm with Derek. I'm with Mike. I'm cleaning my house. Because I always think I'm not going to allow you to fill my life with your lies of your own, of whatever perception you think is going on here. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Right? It can be really easy for me to show all these beautiful photos of me in my bikini on the beach because I've got tons of them. I could easily just funnel those pictures out all day, every day, because I've got hundreds of them. But what kind of perception would that be creating? And then when they met me and they realized I sat at home for 5 days and I was only on the water for 1 day, they're going to be like, oh, I thought you were just on the water every day. And I'm like, no. Why would you think that? Oh, because that's all you post. Right? So you have to, you can't control their perception, but I'm going to damn sure do all I can to show who I am for real. My real thoughts, my real life. Yes, I go out on the water, but I work really hard to enjoy that day out on the water. Okay? And so I think social media can be good and bad when it comes to perception and ego and persona, because I could also pump out all those beautiful water pictures to boost my own ego, right? To be like, ooh, look at me. Look at me out here. Ooh, your perception is I'm some island chick and all I do is go on boats and play on yachts. I could totally like make that your perception if I wanted to. If I wanted to be deceptive, you know, but then that would create a disconnect between who I really am. And so when you met me, you'd be like, wait, that's not at all what I thought she was going to be like. I don't want that. And I don't want that for you guys either, or for your family, or for the people that see you at work, or the people that see you at your home. I want them to be like, dude, you know, Tessa's Tessa. Or Amanda's Amanda, no matter whether she's at home or at work or out in public or on her social media. I see her for who she is. Because she has no problem showing who she is. That's why I tell you guys, hey, I had an argument with Mike yesterday. Kind of ruined my day for a little bit. But thankfully, I had this little forgiving card that kind of played over in my head. I want you guys to know that real shit happens to me too. Real life happens to me too. Sometimes the world gets the best of my emotions and I take it out over here. Okay? Because that's who I am. That's true. And now when you meet me and I'm super over emotional about the world, you'll know why. You'll know that's Jenny. She gets really emotional about love and hate and equality and all of that stuff. You're going to be like, yeah, she's a ball buster on that. Right? I'm not going to be silent about it anymore. And I think that's what we all need to be. It's like, stop being silent about who you are. Stop being silent. Stop wondering, oh, I shouldn't post that because what if so-and-so sees that? Who cares? Let them see it. Right? Like, let them see it. What it was. Who cares? If that's who you are, put it out there. Because I have actually also noticed the more I'm myself, yes, people have unfollowed me. I'm okay with that. Because I've also had 2 people friend request me. Because they were told by another girl that I should be friends with them, that I think like them. Or it was like, one girl was like, hey, I'm going to send, my friend is friend requesting you because I always love your perspective and I think that you and her would be really good fit. And I'm like, you're probably right. You're probably right. So I don't care about those 5 people that unfollowed me because I brought one girl in that thought like I did. And that's who I want. I want those people that think like me. But in order to find the people that think like me, I have to start expressing what I think. Right? Like, how are we going to find our people if we aren't true to who we are? And I think that's where sometimes I've seen other coaches come into teams that, you know, maybe they didn't like some of their teams. And I'm like, well, you probably were being inauthentic to who you really were. You're probably attracting the people that aren't like you. When you are just you, you're actually going to attract those people that are like you. Right? Like, I could look on the screen and probably name something that all of us have in common, or that you have in common with me. Like, there's a reason why you're here and why you were drawn to me. We at some level or at some point have common ground. Maybe that's a thought process. Maybe it's like we have family, or maybe we have friends, or maybe we have had history, you know, maybe we went to school together, or there's some kind of common ground that brought you into me or into the circle of team. Maybe you're down, you know, a couple people from me. There's a reason why you were brought there. It's because I'm becoming more myself. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. To be honest, like, that's what it is. I'm just not afraid to be who I want to be anymore. And I want that for all of you guys. Like, I want you to just say, you know what? Time to be me. Time to be me. Not what other people think they want me to be, because I can change their perception the more I'm myself. You can change other people's perception. Absolutely. It's going to take some hard work. It's going to take some listening, some time, but it's totally possible. And guess what? It's totally worth it, right? It's worth it to just be who you are, to just have people accept you or not like you because of who you are. I'm totally fine with somebody not liking me for standing up for who I am. I'm totally okay with that. Unfollow me. Go over to your corner. That's totally fine. I'm not here to make you like me. I'm here to be myself. And if you happen to like that, awesome. Let's go. Right? So stop trying to make everybody happy. Stop trying to change yourself when you're with these people or when you're with these people. Okay? Find you. Check your ego. Check the perception that people think you are. And check whether you're being true to yourself. Okay? Start with yourself. I think that's like, so when we were showing like the circles of yesterday, like the eyeball or something, it was like an eyeball, I think. Like, start with yourself. Be like, what do I like? What do I not like that I do? Like, there was a moment where I was like, I don't even really like that I drink. Like, I don't even like it. So why am I doing it? If myself says no, why am I doing it? Right? So it was worth it to me to be truer to myself than it was to be true to other people. Okay? So just remember that when you're checking, does this line with me? Okay? And then how do I need to change my ego about it? Right? So I had to let down a little bit about like my own ego that I thought I was some party girl. Like, I had to let that go. Personally. Not somebody else had to let that go. That's perception. Yes, they had to let it go too. But I had to let it go first. Okay? And then I can change other people's perspective. Because have you ever seen people where they're like, oh yeah, I quit drinking, and then on the weekends you see them drinking a beer? That's a disconnect, right? Like, that's not going to line up. So you have to be willing to do it first. Like, I say, like, okay, I'm not drinking alcohol. And then you see me not, oops, sorry, hold on. Okay. And you see me not drinking alcohol. Okay, so now your perception is actually changing because you're seeing the follow through. Okay, so I speak up about myself and then I follow through, and then that will change other people's perspective. But it's a process, you guys. And be ready for some backlash. Be ready for people to say, that's not you. Oh, well, you used to do that. Oh, the Jenny I knew used to do that. Well, welcome to the new Jenny. You knew me 10 years ago. That's cute. I've changed a lot since then. I'm like a completely different person. You want to meet the new me? Come on. But that old me? No. Nope. She's not here anymore. Sorry about you. Right? And there's people that used to like me from then. Right? Like, they liked me the way I was. No. But I was just like, I'm sorry. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep those memories in your memory bank because they ain't happening anymore. You know? I'm going to pop over to the chat. I haven't read it at all. So I'm freezing up. Ah, jeez. So much. Oh, Tennille, this last one. Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, I don't even have any friends from college anymore. I have some people that maybe still are on my friends list. But yeah, no, none of them are friends with me anymore. Yes.
I don't have friends from college, but it's very rare for me. Like, my husband and I just went out this past weekend for date night, and I had a half a margarita. Like, I'm to the point in my life now that, like, if I want a half of a cocktail or something, then I'll drink it. But it wasn't for me anymore. And it was the hardest part of it is other people's perspective of it, of, you know, why are you doing that? Why aren't you drinking anymore? You used to be the party, crazy, fighting, you know? And I'm sure everybody has a story, but yeah, the hardest part is just other people accepting it. And they're going to either accept it and watch you soar and watch you grow and be positive and happy and joyful, or they're going to beat you up over it. And that's where you know the people that you need in your life. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's like absolutely. Like I would say for like the last year, even when I did drink, I was kind of like, man, this kind of just ruined my night. Now I can't go do anything because I've already drank. Like, it's so interesting. Let me shut this door. It's interesting because, you know, you get stuck in that habit too. Like there have been times where like Mike and I will go out to eat and my first initial is, oh, I should get a glass of wine. But then I'm like, well, I haven't drank in like months. So do I really want that? You know, like, and it's not just alcohol, you guys. So it doesn't have to be just alcohol. And don't get me wrong. Like, dude, you have a couple beers or like whatever. That is like totally fine. Don't think that I would judge you because you do or do not drink. It just didn't align with me anymore. That's it. It just didn't align with me anymore. Right? I didn't like being hungover. I didn't really like being buzzed anymore. It gave me a headache. And I was just like, this is pointless to me. So when it became pointless to me, I had to ask myself, is this really something I even needed in my life anymore? Yeah, you had great fun in college. Woo-hoo! We will always remember those days as the days I fell out of a freaking window because I was too freaking drunk, okay? Because I've done it. But just know I won't be doing that anytime any soon because I'm in a different season of life. You know? I'm just not 21 anymore. And I think that's okay. And I think sometimes that's the only way growth is going to happen is if we're just okay with a new season of life, right? And that's all of our ego. Our ego wants to hold on to it so bad. Like, oh, this is what people think. What are people going to think when I'm just not that person that they've known me for so long as being? Well, you know what? They'll either support it or they won't. And you can still love them from afar, right where they're at. Right? And maybe you have to say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't have you in my life anymore until I become stronger. And then I'll come back and get you. Or if you're still here and want to be my friend, awesome. If not, I'm sorry. Some people are only in your life for a season. Okay? That was really hard for me to understand for a long time. Is that some people aren't meant to be in my life forever. Some people serve their little purpose when they were here, and then we move on. We change, we evolve, we grow, and sometimes those people don't stick with us. And sometimes you grab somebody and they're with you for the rest of your life, right? And they came out of nowhere. You never know. But you have to be willing to identify those people, okay? You have to kind of step back and identify, is this a person in my life for a season? Or is this a forever person? Especially when I stepped up into coaching, I had to realize that people were in my life for a season. I have people that come in for a challenge, they do their 4-week challenge, boom, gone, never hear from them again. And I'm like, where'd you go? Right? And I'm like, okay. You know, and I'll message them and I'll try and check in and it's like nothing. And I'm like, all right, like, must have just been a season. Must have just been a season. But then sometimes, again, a year or 2 years later, they've come back around. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Are you doing any challenge? And I'll be like, oh, you're back. It's your season again. So some people are going to come and go. You got to be okay with that. Stop trying to hold on to them. Let them go. Let them flow. Because maybe when that person goes in their other season, another person is right here to be accepted in. And maybe that person is 10 times better than that first person. But because you were so holding on to this friendship that didn't align with you anymore, but your ego was keeping them there, when instead you could have just let them go. and opened yourself up to new relationships and opened yourself up to new people. Because like I say, you guys, none of you guys went to college with me. If I would have held on, tried to hold on to those friendships, like, no, come on, we could still be friends. What if like da 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 da? None of you guys would be here. Right? None of you guys would be here. Had I not let those relationships go, none of these beautiful women in front of me would be sitting here. Because I wouldn't have done the growth to get here, to do this. Okay? So I had to let that go in order to grow to who I was supposed to be here for you guys. Which I love so much more. So much more. Right? All right. Whew. Good work today, ladies. 9:09. Okay, I want to read Ellen. That's what I thought too. Yeah. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys. Oh, that was good work today, right? Like you guys, the ego. Check that baby. Check that ego of yours, okay? If there's ever a time you're going, oh, I don't know if I should do that because what if they're gonna, just know that you have a big ego stamped across your forehead. Anytime you think, oh, should I do that? Or, oh, I have a big stamp and I go, ego. Like, just think of it like, my ego every time. Okay. So anytime you second guess yourself or you think, or you're trying to think, oh, what is so-and-so going to think? Or what is my mom going to think? Or what is so-and-so going to think? Dude, I got a freaking stamp on your forehead that says ego. Don't you worry about that. Okay. You do you. People will fall to the wayside and new people will move in. It's going to feel icky, but that's growth. Okay? And we're all here to grow. Because I can't wait to see, seriously, who you guys could be if you would just be true to yourself. I can only imagine the amount of people that you guys could affect, the amount of people you guys could help, the amount of world-changing ideas that are sitting in your guys' heads. But you won't even speak it because you're so afraid. Screw it, guys. People are going to judge you anyway. You might as well give them something to judge. Might as well speak your truth and at least let them judge the real you, right? Don't let other people's opinions or other people's perceptions identify who you are from this moment on. From this moment on, you are your truest self. Okay? Make that decision. Boom. New you. You are now the real you. Whatever that is for you. Okay? Go with it. Trust yourself. Okay? Trust that you know what's best for you. Trust it. Okay? Because when you guys start to trust yourselves, magic can happen. So much magic. And I'm doing this too, you guys. I'm trusting myself more and more. And I'm preaching it and I'm talking it because I'm talking to myself too. Like, Jen, just be yourself. The more you're yourself, the more the girls understand how to be themselves. And then the more they're themselves, the more we can affect other people to be themselves, the more we can change the perception of everything. But not until we're true to ourselves and speak our truths. Because if not, people are going to fill our lives with lies, right? You've all been there. When somebody said, oh, it just looks like you're just living the life over there, aren't you? Oh, really? Because only if you knew that so-and-so and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? You guys know when people like start putting like, oh, this looks like you guys are just having a heyday. All you do is da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, really? Their perception is skewed. They're going to fill your life with lies anyway of what they think you're doing. You might as well just show them. You might as well just show up and say, this is what I'm actually doing. Because they're going to judge anyway. They're going to talk anyway. Give them something to talk about. Right? Tessa, yes, absolutely.
So it was just some things yesterday, like I was looking through the ego thing and the whole like happiness, all that kind of thing. And like, you know, like our ego is like our sense of self-esteem and like our self-importance of how like we're important to people's lives. And a lot of times it's us trying to be that person because we want to be liked by that certain group of people. And like how you were saying, like you're trying to hang on to people. And one thing I found was like just reading through some different stuff was like practicing forgiveness and letting it go. So like not thinking that you're weak for giving forgiveness, because that's a big thing with people's egos is, well, if I forgive somebody, I'm going to be weak because I forgive them. But what it really does is you're giving forgiveness for yourself. You're letting that negativity out of your body to make room for happiness, because all that is just like, it's self-hate most of the time that you're keeping on to, because you feel like, oh, if I just hang on to that, then I have control of that situation. But it's not, it's making it worse. So you let it go to make room for something else more positive to move in. And like, you know, that it helps you move forward into your growth of growing into that new person and letting that ego go that you have to keep a hold of. And then like practicing honesty and being open. So like my whole thing is like honesty is the best policy. Like if you have something, you better tell me, because I would rather you be honest with me, we figure the situation out, than you lie to me and I find out later, because then that just breaks that relationship down. So like instead of your ego of, you know, holding you back and not being honest, is it probably going to piss somebody else off? Probably. I'm like the biggest person that if I got something to say, I'm going to say it. No matter if you like it, you don't like it, but I'm going to always be honest with you and upfront with you. Like you will never have to guess in your life where you stand with me, because I will make it completely clear. If I don't agree with you, I'm going to let you know I don't agree with you. If I have a difference of opinion, I'm going to let it be known, but I'm going to work towards that goal of working with you to come to that common page. And I think that's one thing that right now in the world is everybody has their side and nobody really wants to work together. Like everybody says they want to work together, but nobody wants to put their ego down or their pride to work with anybody else. I'm looking at my notes I made yesterday. So honesty also, like, it gives us like an unconditional freedom to like connect us with people instead of like trying to be something that we're not. So being honest with like who you are and not trying to be somebody else is going to give you that freedom to fully embrace yourself. And then like learning to say no. That has been one of my hardest things in life, because I'm a helper. I'm the person that like wants to fix you. Like I want to fix you. I'm a helper. Like I've been to nursing school. I'm an EMT. I have a criminal justice degree. Like I want to help you. Even in my job now that I have a sales, I want to fix your problem. I want to help you with your problem. But that puts me in a place that sometimes I'm like, I want to say no, but I can't say no because they're going to expect me to do it. It's a book and it's called like, Say Fuck No. Not to drop the F-bomb, but that book is completely amazing. I listened to it on Audible, and she really goes through about like, you know, if you don't have kids and you don't want to go to your friend's baby shower, you're going to be uncomfortable, just say no. You don't have to go. Send a gift if you want to. If that is not your thing, but you still want to support that person, just, you know, No, thank you. I really appreciate you asking me. Send a gift, send a card, still support them, but not putting yourself into that position that makes you miserable to please somebody else. Let that ego go. Another thing was surrendering your need for control. That, Jenny, yeah, cover your face, Jenny. But seriously, we all want to control like so many things, and we're not our egos. We are not our jobs. We are not material possessions. So like trying to hang on to that stuff, like once you let your ego, you're letting your ego control your life into thinking like, oh, I got to have this type of car, or, I got to live in this type of house, or, oh my God, what are these people going to think? But really just like being true to yourself is going to make you so much more happy and so much more relaxed. And then it breaks the fear that you have, and you actually trust life, because then you have your true friends. You don't have the people that are just with you because of what you have or what you can give them or what you can get to them. And I literally have like had this conversation with my nephew, because he wants to be like that dude that is partying, and like Christian said, and you want to be the life of the party and you want to show everybody else. But at the end of the day, if you didn't have that for those people, are those people still going to be standing there for you? Hell no, they're not. You don't have anything to give them in life anymore. You have nothing to give them. They are not bringing any value to your life. And that was like another part of it is like, if it doesn't bring value to you in your life, then what are you doing? If it's not going to help you grow, let it go. It's not helping your ego. Let it go. It just, like, it kind of like in his video of just, he was enjoying, he wanted that time for himself, but he was being selfish in that way of not letting other people in. But when you let people in, you actually start to enjoy that moment with yourself, because your ego isn't in your head telling you, well, you really should be doing this, or, you're important to people, like you're important, so you got to do this and you got to be this person. But really enjoying yourself, like those moments of silence by yourself. And that's one thing I found, like, I'll come home from the end of the day at work and I'll literally just sit in my car for 10 minutes, radio's off. I enjoy the silence. I give my mind that peace and realize I'm not that person I was at work. I'm not the mom. I'm me. Like finding you and identifying as you. You don't identify yourself as your job. You don't identify yourself as, oh, I'm a mama 3, or I'm an EMT, or, I'm a coach, or I'm a teacher, or I'm this. You are identifying you as you and who you are to the core, not how the world sees you or how you want the world to see you and how you think you need to display like out there. So just taking even that 5 minutes out of a day and really asking yourself, like, who am I? To me, not to Jenny, not to Alicia, not to Tennille, who am I to me? And that is where you're going to find your growth. So I just wanted to share those things that I found yesterday. Because I think to me, like I've really grown a lot, especially over the past year, but I don't know, they kind of opened up some things that things that I need to like work on, because we all need to work every day on ourselves and not just be stuck in that, well, this is who I am and this is who I'm supposed to be, because that's not who we are and that's not what we're supposed to be. So let the ego go, forgive, trust, honesty, let it all in. Love yourself.
Tessa, I love you. I love that. Dude, that was super cool. Dude, unconditional freedom. Like, dude, does that just not make you want to like put your arms out and just freaking fly? Like, think of yourself as giving yourself unconditional freedom to be yourself. You have unconditional. Like if I needed to give you permission or you needed permission from somebody to be yourself, here it is. You're welcome. Do it. Right? Like if you're waiting for somebody to just sit here and say, hey, it's okay. You can actually be yourself. It's happening. Okay? You have now been given permission from Tessa and I to be unconditionally, freely yourself. Your beautiful mess that you are. Just be it. Right? Because we're not perfect. We don't need to be perfect. And actually, the moment we realize we're not perfect, we realize that we can grow so much. Right? Like, and Tessa, dude, I've seen you grow so much in the time that you've been on our team. Like, I mean, you're a smart, amazing woman. Like, when I met you, I was like, holy shit, Tessa is like, dumb shit, like on stack. But then here you are identifying growth. Wow, you can still grow. There's still spots for you to go, I can work on that. Wow, who knew? Right? Like, how cool is that when you just identify and kind of let, like, I had to kind of check my own ego too. Like, I was like, no, there's some stuff that you can still grow on, Jen. And it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's actually really awesome that you get to grow right now. Right?
And that's one thing, like, I tell my kids too. I mean, Bryce is going to be 18 on Saturday. My oldest is going to be 18 on Saturday. And I tell him, by far, he is a good kid. I mean, this kid he is a good kid. I couldn't ask better for a first one. The middle one, we're going to need a lot of growth. But I tell him, I'm like, dude, you're going to be 18. You are going to be an adult. Stuff is going to change for you as an adult. But I'm at 38. Dude, I still don't have shit figured out. You're going to screw up. You're going to mess up. But what I want you to do is be honest with me, be honest with yourself, and know that it's a mistake and we're all going to make the mistake. But don't let your ego come into check, or let your ego come into check thinking that to be accepted by these people, I have to do this. Like, be yourself. And that's one thing I can say with that kid is exactly himself. Like, he will be like, no, I don't think so. But I've told him, and I tell them all, I'm like, we're never going to have it figured out. I'm going to look back at 58 in 20 years, and I'm going to look back at my 38-year-old self and be like, yeah, she thought she had shit figured out. That's funny. She's funny. And I journal for that purpose. Because even if I look back a year ago from now myself, I'm going to realize the person that I grew because of the shit that I let go, and I let go of that ego, and I've let go of my ego at 28 to what I am at 38, and I don't have to please those people anymore. The only person I have to please is myself and be happy with myself. Because me being happy with myself and who I am as my ego and my self-esteem and my self-importance is going to make me happy for my family and who they are, I am to them. So we all screw up. We're all going to grow. We grow until we're like 98, rocking out to Beachbody. I don't know.
We'll be old ladies doing UV too.
We'll be like, look at these young kids, please.
I've been doing this for 50 years.
I hope I'm looking at like 88 and I'm like rocking out like I am at 38.
We have like these old biceps and stuff.
Yeah. Like, look at grandma now.
I can't wait. And imagine like looking back 10 years from now at like all the work we're doing now.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, like I can only imagine looking back at myself going, wow, you thought you had it together then, but look how much more you still had to grow. Look at how much more you still had to learn, and look at where you are now because you did it.
And I want to look back when I'm, 48, 38, 68, 58. I'm 38 now. I'm confused. Anyway, but I want to look back on that and I want to be proud of that. I want to be proud of my ego now.
Yeah.
Because the person I was at 28, the person I was at 18, I'm not proud of that ego. But I want to change to when I look back when I'm 58 to 38 and be like, you know what? I'm pretty proud of that chick.
Right? Like that's where it will change.
She didn't have it figured out, but she's trying to figure that shit out.
Yep. Let's do it. I feel it. I feel the shift happening. I don't know if you guys do, but I kind of feel it. Like I feel us all being like, yeah, you're right. I do just need to be myself. I do need to just get some stuff in check. Right? And it's all going to start here, you guys. The moment we start working here, the rest will fall into place. Our bodies will fall into place. Our lives will fall into place if you trust yourself, right? Like I think you said that, trust life. Like trust that because you're being true to yourself, that your life is going in the direction that it's supposed to be. And I think mainly, like I have one girl, she keeps messaging me about ordering a challenge pack. I'll kind of finish up with this. But she keeps messaging me to go get whether she should get a challenge pack or not. And I'm like, well, do you want to come and work? Yes. I just don't know if it will work. And I'm like, you need to trust yourself. I literally just said that to her. I'm like, you need to trust. Like, if you want to do something in a direction, stop second guessing yourself all the time. I was like, you know, in a flick of a freaking snap, you know what you should be choosing. And you're second guessing it over and over again. She doesn't trust herself. She doesn't trust her life because there's some sort of disconnect, right? There's some sort of disconnect between her persona of herself and her life around her. There's some disconnect there. She doesn't trust herself. We got to trust ourselves. Okay, we have to trust that we will make the right decisions for ourselves. And if not, we will learn a hell of a lot, right? Woo, you guys know when you made the wrong decision. We've been there before. Whoops, that wasn't the right one. You know, but you learn real quick whether you made the right decision or not, right? And if our ego is in check, you can switch it just like that. But if your ego's not in check, you sit in that wrong decision. Right? Because you go, oh, well, I can't back out now. I already said I'd go. But in your heart and in yourself, you know it's not right. So you need to trust yourself that you're going to make the right decision. And if you don't, you're going to need to recognize that very quickly. Check your ego and say, you know what? I made a mistake. I made a mistake, but I'm going to fix it right now. And I'm going to go the way I need to go. Okay, but that's only going to work and that's only going to happen like that is if your ego isn't in the way. Okay, because things can be fixed so quickly. You could start working in the opposite direction almost at a snap of the fingers if you would let that ego down. But our ego, you know, like it says, it would be like, oh, we already made that decision. Oh, they're already doing it. Oh, I already said this and I can't go back. But actually, people would probably appreciate you more for owning up to a mistake and saying, you know what, that was the wrong decision, but I'm going to actively do everything I can to make this right. People will appreciate you so much more if you own up to saying, I made the wrong decision, right? Rather than just trying to play it off or go along with it because that's what you said in the beginning. Okay? You got to trust yourself. All right. Woo, buddy. Ego. Feeling good about that. Yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings us. I haven't decided if I'm going to continue with ego or kind of the same lineup, or if we're going to do something else. I want to see what I can find, or if you guys find anything specific on ego, or maybe just perception or something like that. I think there's definitely always more work that we can do in this area. And I think kind of when we stay on a topic too, it kind of helps us break it down multiple times and look at it from different ways. And so I think we might continue, actually, I'm just gonna make that decision. We're gonna continue ego tomorrow. So I'm gonna actively look for some stuff to talk about tomorrow that we can still talk about ego, because I think it's a big topic. It's a big topic. But the quicker we can just hash it out and get through it, the quicker we can start working with it. Cool. So be on your ego check, be on your ego search, you know, for the next 24 hours, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll continue talking about it. Cool. Woo. Good work today, ladies. Thank you guys so much for today. I really appreciate it. I needed it just as much as you guys probably did. So I thank you so much. All right, ladies, have a good day. Bye. Oh, well, let me end. There we go.